Most of us have heard of the Tabernacle from the Old Testament, right? That portable sanctuary the Israelites carried through the desert. But what if I told you that was just the surface story? According to our source material, hidden inside its design is a profound blueprint of the entire cosmos and of you. Let's pull back the curtain.
So, we know the familiar narrative, a place of worship, of faith, but our source poses a really fascinating question. What if the tabernacle was built to be understood on two completely different levels? What if its real purpose was hiding in plain sight the entire time?
Here's the core idea. The tabernacle wasn't just one thing. It had a dual meaning. There was the exoteric, or the outer meaning, that was for everybody. And then there was the esoteric, or the inner meaning, which was only for the initiates, the ones who were given the keys to its symbolism.
So on one hand, you have the general population seeing a literal house for God, a place for actual physical sacrifices. But for the wise, it was a symbolic school. Every single object, every ritual was a lesson in philosophy. It was a step-by-step path of initiation. The point wasn't just what they were doing, but what it all meant on a much deeper level.
Okay, so where did this incredibly complex system of symbols come from? Our source argues it didn't just appear out of nowhere. No, it was directly patterned after the temples of the Egyptian mysteries. You know, the place the Israelites had just spent centuries. It was kind of like they were given an ancient source code, which they then adapted for a new purpose.
And this leads to a pretty radical rethinking of Moses himself. The source suggests that maybe he wasn't just a lawgiver, maybe he was an initiate, an emissary sent from these very secret schools. His real mission, in this view, was to translate these incredibly deep spiritual mysteries into a symbolic form that a nomadic people could actually carry with them.
It goes even deeper. This interpretation suggests the name Moses wasn't just a name at all. It was a title. In the esoteric language of the Egyptians, it literally meant someone who had graduated from the mystery schools and was now tasked with bringing that hidden wisdom out into the world. It was his job description.
All right, so if the tabernacle is a symbolic map, let's take a tour. We're going to walk through it just like an initiate would, moving from the outside in, and we'll decode what each element really means along the way.
Our journey is broken down into three main stages. We start in the outer court, which represents the physical world and our own physical bodies. Then we pass into the holy place, which symbolizes the inner world, the realm of mind and soul. And finally, if we're worthy, we approach the Holy of Holies, the realm of pure spirit.
The very first thing we come across is the brazen altar. Now, esoterically, this has nothing to do with sacrificing an actual animal. The bull on the altar, that's a symbol for one's own animal nature, our lower instincts. And the divine fire, that represents the spiritual energy needed to purify those base elements. The sacrifice is internal. It's about conquering the self.
Next, we come to the laver of purification, and this represents a much deeper kind of cleansing. To go any further, an initiate can't just be physically clean, they have to be mentally and spiritually pure too. It's this powerful reminder that purity of thought and intention is an absolute must before you can access the deeper mysteries.
Now we pass through the first veil, and we're inside the holy place. In here, there are three key objects, and each one represents a different aspect of spiritual and cosmic law. You could think of them as the tools of illumination.
Over on the south side, we see the great golden candlestick, the menorah, and the details here are incredibly precise. According to our source, which draws on the historian Josephus, it was decorated with exactly 72 distinct ornaments. And like everything else in here, that number is definitely not an accident.
So what does it all mean? Well, the 7 lamps were understood to represent the 7 visible planets known to ancient astronomers. And those 72 ornaments? They were a secret code for the 72 subdivisions of the zodiac, known as the decani. The candlestick wasn't just a lamp. It was a miniature model of the solar system.
Opposite the candlestick, you've got the table of shewbread. On it are 12 loaves of bread. You guessed it, these symbolize the 12 months of the year, and again, the 12 signs of the zodiac. This represents the spiritual food, the nourishment we get from completing the full cycle of the heavens.
The last thing we see before the final, most sacred veil is the altar of incense. And this is fascinating. The source says this altar symbolizes the human larynx. Think about it. Just like the altar stands between the holy place and the Holy of Holies, your larynx stands between your body and your head. The words we speak, like incense, rise up as an offering from our physical self to our spiritual consciousness. And all of this brings us to the biggest reveal of the Tabernacle's design. It wasn't just a random collection of cool symbols. The entire structure, with its 3 distinct parts, was a perfect microcosm. It was a blueprint of the universe outside of us and a blueprint of the universe inside of us.
This table just lays out the parallel perfectly. The outer court, that's the physical world, but it's also your lower body. The holy place, that mirrors the land and sea, but also your torso and your organs. And the Holy of Holies, that's the inaccessible heavens, which is a perfect analogy for the sacred space of your head, your brain.
Even the materials they use tell the same story. Gold stands for our higher, spiritual self. Silver, which is linked to the moon, symbolizes the purified human soul. And brass, which is a mix of different metals, represents the average person's constitution, a blend of base and precious elements.
The symbolism didn't even stop with the building itself. It actually extended to the high priest. His incredibly elaborate outfit, called the Robes of Glory, was just another layer of this symbolic map, representing the perfected human soul.
And right at the heart of that map, on the high priest's breastplate, one number shows up again and again: 12. 12 precious stones, each one carved with the name of a tribe.
This number connects absolutely everything. Those 12 stones represented the 12 tribes, sure, but they also stood for the 12 months, the 12 signs of the zodiac, and, on an esoteric level, 12 great human virtues and 12 spiritual centers within our own bodies. The high priest was literally wearing a blueprint of the cosmos and the perfected man right on his chest. So you're probably thinking, this is an unbelievably complex system of symbols. How in the world was anyone supposed to unlock it all? Well, the source claims that the initiates were given a very special method, a master key that could decipher the whole hidden doctrine.
That key was the Kabbalah. Now, it wasn't a physical book you could just read. It was a set of oral teachings, philosophical keys that were passed down from teacher to student. This was the instruction manual for how to read between the lines of Scripture and uncover the profound allegories hidden in stories like the Tabernacle.
And that leaves us with one final big thought. If this interpretation is right, then the Tabernacle is basically a book written in the language of symbols. And if a key like the Kabbalah can unlock its secrets to reveal a map of humanity and the universe, well, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other ancient stories are just waiting for the right key to reveal their hidden meaning?